last 24 hours. Powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
And a gitten Zois Chanukah, my friends. It's Monday, Parshas Vayigash, the 8th Lechtel of Chanukah. And yes, it's the last day of Chanukah. Well, it's not really the last day, but us Yidden, we don't consider last days. We don't believe in last days. This is a continuation. It's the beginning of new beginnings. We let our light shine further upon the world. Yes, with all the great schusim of today. May you all taka be zeicher, te gmach si met teuve. And I get gebencht you taka from now on. So is Chanukah today, yeah. Gmach si met teuve. Oi pesach lu nishar. Beyais ni las shar. Kifu nu. Now remember this, it's not really that, don't think of it as Hashem is closing the door on us. Chalila v'chas. I heard a good word from someone once. Hashem is closing the door with you inside. Yes, He takes you inside. What an intimate and close moment with Hashem today. This is the day where He does this. He closes the door with you inside. Anyway, my friends, my name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm your host on Edge. It's Tivus today. And I know I haven't been reporting every single morning, early morning, like I usually do. Now, for those listening to my Yiddish program on Yiddish24 and Kol Mevaser know already that I come every morning. And Chanukah is a time to disconnect and reconnect with the family, so I had to do that. So I'm back, Baruch Hashem. I know now it's the afternoon, and I'm here with a packed full day of news of everything that's been happening up until this moment. Yes, and I will be back by Ezra Shem's Baruch from tomorrow on in the morning to our regular daily morning schedule. Though I need your input. Call me on 845-671-1775, press 5, and leave me a brief message with the preference that with your preference, what you like, and I will listen to each and every one. No long messages, please. Short and brief messages, okay? So let me know. Do you want it 9 a.m. every morning? Do you want it 8 a.m.? Or whatever. What times do you want it? 12 noon? Some people want it 3 in the afternoon. I've heard so many mixed messages. I need to hear from all of you, and I want to go halacha karov, okay? And also, I'm planning to do 2 shows. Would you like that? If yes, what times do you prefer? And it has to be normal. I have to be able to go on with my day as well. And, I'm a Baruch Hashem, a family man, and I have to be able to do this. And Baruch Hashem, we have the help. And Hashem will help further and continue. And if you want to support us and be a sponsor, please call us again at 845-671-1775 and press 1 to speak to someone or leave us a message as well. Or you could, I'd rather you don't press 5 and leave a message there because it's going to get lost between all the other messages that we're looking for. But if you want to sponsor us, you can email us on onedgenews@gmail.com or go onto onedgenews.com and find a contact page there. Okay, let us continue. You can WhatsApp us on 845-671-1775 as well. Now, we are seeing opennism mixed with absolute chaos. Trump is trying to get Greenland while they're screaming it's not for sale in a week where he has wars to settle. From Russia to Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, I don't know what's going on there, and Thailand and Cambodia, and now Syria. I haven't seen a week this chaotic since I tried to build IKEA furniture without instructions. But let's get to it. But first, like Ben Shapiro likes to say, and we will hear about Ben Shapiro soon. Protobyte. Protobyte is here for you when you need to build yourself custom-made software. Custom-made software tied into your website. You know what Protobyte is? Call them. 347-354-1237. Again, mention on Edge for a good deal. 347-354-1237. I know you spend a ton of money already on subscriptions to different softwares and websites that you keep running, keep your business running, so to speak, or you get lost in it. The point is, Protobyte is here to make that very simple. One website, one place for all. Okay, the terror at Brown University and MIT is finally over, my friends. But the story of how this actually went down is wild. For a minute there, the world thought we're looking at an international act of war. When the MIT professor Nunu Luriro was shot dead at his home, alarms went off all the way in Israel. He was a top nuclear scientist working on fusion energy. Israeli intelligence actually started investigating, and I reported it here, if Iran was behind the hit. The fear was that an Iranian hit squad was taking out nuclear experts on American soil. But it turns out the enemy wasn't Tehran, though. We will hear about Tehran soon. It was a ghost from 25 years ago. Now listen to this. The shooter's name is Claudio Manuel Neves Valente. Now, for the sake of the news, let's just call him Valente, because we haven't got time to try and pronounce names here. This guy didn't just attack the school at random, he drove 50 miles specifically to hunt down that professor. They knew each other, apparently. They studied physics together in Portugal back in the late 90s. Valente was the top student who failed and got kicked out while the professor became a star. It wasn't politics. It was a 25-year grudge that he held onto until he snapped. Guy, like with extra kavuna. But here is the part that makes you shake your head. The FBI didn't crack this case. A homeless man living in the basement of the engineering building That's who did it. The man goes by the name John. Yes, he didn't just spot a car, he had a full-on cat-and-mouse game with a killer, like he says. It started in a bathroom hours before the shooting. John saw Valente, and we saw him there, and he noticed his clothes were inappropriate and inadequate for the weather. Later outside, he watched Valente playing games with a grey Nissan, using the fob, the key fob, to unlock it, walking up, backing away, and relocking it. John didn't back down. He actually followed the killer and yelled at him, "Your car's back there, why are you circling the block?" Valente looked at him in the eyes and said, "I don't know you from nobody," in these words, and kept asking, "Why are you harassing me?" John went straight to Reddit, where he posts stuff, I guess, and posted, "I'm being dead serious. The police need to look into a grey Nissan with Florida plates." End quote. That tip blew the case wide open. Rhode Island's Attorney General put it simply, when you crack it, you crack it. And for doing the FBI's job, federal officials confirmed John is now entitled to the $50,000 reward. What a payday for a homeless man. Police tracked Valente to a storage unit in New Hampshire. Surveillance cameras saw him walk in there, but never walked out. When the SWAT teams broke in, they found him dead from a self-inflicted gun wound. He had the guns and the evidence right there with him. Now, the government is slamming the door shut. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says Valente got into America through the diversity visa lottery in 2017. She says a guy like this should never have been allowed in. So now, she has ordered an immediate pause on this diversity lottery, the entire lottery program, to stop anyone else like this from entering America this way. Israel is on high alert, like I said before, about Tehran, right? And the question on everyone's mind is simple. Is Iran about to launch a surprise attack? Well, for the last 24 hours, the red phone between Tel Aviv and Washington has been ringing off the hook. Israel has officially warned the US that the massive missile drills Iran is running right now might be fake. The fear is that the exercise is actually a cover story for a surprise invasion. IDF chief Eyal Zamir got on the line with the head of US CENTCOM, Brad Cooper, and basically said, "We aren't buying it." Israel believes the Iranians are using these drills to move missiles into launch positions right under their noses. But here is where it gets tense. The Americans aren't seeing it. US intelligence sources say they see no indication that an attack is imminent, like the Israelis think. They think it's just a drill. But Israeli officials are blunt. They say the chance of an attack is less than 50%, but after October 7th, nobody is willing to take any risks. They would rather be wrong and ready than right and dead. Make no mistake, the temperature is boiling. Remember, we just had a 12-day war back in June where Israel struck Iranian nuclear sites. Iran is still rebuilding its stockpiles. Prime Minister Netanyahu is flying to meet President Trump next week to show him the new plans for a potential strike. So when Israel sees Iranian missiles moving, they don't see a practice run. They see round two. Now let's talk about Syria. On the Syrian front, Syria is in the news again. A full-fledged war broke out, within Syria between the Kurds. America is opening the door, Israel is smashing the furniture, and Turkey is screaming at its neighbors. First, the big money move. Always follow the dollar bill. President Trump just signed the order to kill the Caesar Act sanctions. This is the financial chokehold that crushed Syria for years. For the new president, Ahmad al-Shara, this is a winning lottery ticket. He is telling the world Syria is open for business, and he has a plan for the cash. He wasn't just saying it. He wants to build an electronic umbrella. That's what he calls it, connecting every tank, drone, and soldier into one high-tech digital army. But Israel is not waiting for the Wi-Fi to get connected. While Syria plans for the future, the IDF is dismantling their army right now. Israel has carried out over 1,000 airstrikes to wipe out strategic weapons before the new government can even use them. Well, that happened since the Assad regime fell. And it's not just air power. Israeli tanks have crossed the border into villages like Ma'ariya and Abdin to set up a buffer zone. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu actually begged the US to keep the sanctions as leverage, but Trump said no. He wants to stabilize the country to keep it away from Iran. The internal war in Syria just flared up again. A Syrian army tank opened fire directly on Kurdish forces in the north. and it has triggered a massive firefight. For the last few hours, heavy shooting has been reported between the two sides, specifically around Aleppo. So now, the Syrian army isn't just dodging Israeli airstrikes, they are actively picking a fight with the Kurds too. On the same front, Americans have kept their promise, and they are, indeed, along with Syrian forces, fighting ISIS terror cells in the area. The Turkish government is absolutely livid. They are accusing the Kurdish forces, the SDF, of secretly coordinating with Israel. Turkey claims the Kurds are feeding intelligence to the Israelis to help them bomb Syrian targets. So you have the US funding the peace, Israel bombing the military, and Turkey blaming the Kurds for helping the Israelis. Syria just got a black card from Uncle Sam, but between Israeli airstrikes and Turkish tantrums, they might want to spend that money on a helmet instead. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just gave Turkish President Erdogan a major reality check. He told him, point blank, quote, ambitions of reviving former empires will not be realized, end quote. The Turkish leader keeps threatening Israel and trying to control the region like in the olden days, but Netanyahu is telling him the Ottoman Empire is dead and it is not coming back. In other news, let's fly to Australia. Since the Bondi Beach attack, Hanukkah massacre, things have just gotten tense in Australia. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has just walked into a buzzsaw of anger at the Bondi Beach, where they held a memorial. He went there to apologize for the horrific shooting at the Hanukkah celebration that killed 15 Kedoshim, 15 Yidden, Hashem Yinkan Dumam, Reb Eli Schlanger, and Reb Levitan, many other Choshev Yidden who died, Kedoshim, who died along with a 10-year-old child, a girl, who was standing right next to Rabbi Schlanger while he put tefillin on to a person, and both of them died, Nebuch, and this little girl as well got a bullet and died, Nebuch, from this horrific attack. Hashem Yinkam Duma. Her father was standing there taking a picture of them, and he had to see this happening. What a sad story this was. What a horrific, terrible story. Nobody should ever, ever be tried with such a story. Father seeing his own daughter. Oi, Hashem Yinkan Duma. Anyway, Albanese told the crowd, I feel the weight of responsibility, and vowed to pass massive new laws to ban hate symbols and crack down on guns. But the community wasn't having it. When the Prime Minister tried to speak, he was loudly booed by the grieving crowd. Now listen to this.
I'm sorry for what the Jewish community and our nation as a whole has experienced.
You understand what's going on? People are furious because the attackers were ISIS-inspired terrorists who had been planning this for months. Now, Albanese says he is pushing through broad reforms to make sure this never happens again. But for many, it is too little, too late. The full story of the Bondi Beach terror attack just came out in court. And it is absolutely chilling. It turns out this wasn't just a shooting. It was a failed mass bombing. Listen to this. As the surviving terrorist Navid Akram was moved from hospital to a prison cell today, the court released a statement of facts that reveals a massive miracle. The terrorists didn't just bring rifles. They brought 3 pipe bombs and a 4th improvised explosive hidden inside a tennis ball. During the attack, they actually threw all 4 bombs directly into the crowd of Jews. These were real live explosives, but in an open miracle, not a single one of them detonated. They all failed. The investigation shows this was planned for months now. Police found videos on Akram's phone showing the 2 terrorists practicing with long guns in an empty field outside of Sydney. They recorded a manifesto video sitting in front of an ISIS flag, ranting about their political views and hating Israel. Security cameras even caught them scouting the location 2 days earlier, walking the exact footbridge they used for the attack. On that day of the shooting, they drove there with ISIS banners taped to the front and back windows of their car. They planned a massacre, but their bombs refused to work. They brought guns, they brought hate, and they brought 4 live bombs. But Hashem decided the only thing lighting up that night would be the menorahs. And so it did, and sadly, candles for those 15 Kedoshim also lit up. Together with the menorahs, and together in all our hearts, they go up, and they were Kedoshim, they were sacrificed for just one simple thing, for being Jews. The media is saying a new survey reveals that nearly half of British Jews, 45% they say, feel unwelcome in their own country. But it gets worse. A majority, 51%, say they see no long-term future in the UK at all for Jews. And 61% admit they have actively considered leaving Britain in the last 2 years. They blame the explosion of Jew hatred since October 7th and a police force that refuses to crack down on the mobs. I would tell them, well, to move to Canvey Island, because Canvey Island is peaceful. That's where my parents live, and it's great there. And have a little bit more of betuchen. Yes, today is a day of betuchen. Have betuchen. Don't be afraid of the media. The media likes to say these things. Who cares if a survey says these things? It doesn't mean that you have to be scared. Just be proud of who you are. Be proud of being Jewish. That's our message. Don't be apologetic. In Moscow, in Russia, the war just came home in a big way. A top Russian general, Vanil Sarvarov, was blown to pieces in a car bombing right in the capital. He was the head of training for the Russian military, and his car was rigged with explosives. This happened at the exact same moment peace talks were going on in Miami. Yes, US and Ukrainian officials Jared Kushner and also Steve Witkoff say the meetings in Florida were productive, but there was no major breakthrough. So while the talk piece in Miami is happening, they are still blowing up generals in Moscow, I guess. While the diplomats are talking in Miami again, J.D. Vance, our vice president, is looking at the reality on the ground. Vice President J.D. Vance just poured cold water on the hopes for a quick peace deal. He frankly admitted he has no confidence that Russia and Ukraine will sign anything soon. He says the divisions are simply too deep right now. So while the world is waiting for a breakthrough, the White House is preparing for a long haul. In other news, just now, breaking news out of the Netherlands. A vehicle has plowed straight through a crowd of people in the town of Nunspeet. Authorities confirm that at least 10 people are injured. This is happening during a Chag light parade, Christmas light parade. So the streets were packed with families. Right now, police are describing this as a serious accident rather than a terror attack. But it's too early to know. Yes, 3 trauma helicopters are on the scene now, and they're saving lives, and the investigation is just starting. Another bloodbath in South Africa happened over the weekend. A gunman, opened fire on a pub in the township of Beckersdale, killing 9 people and wounding 10 more. Police say a group of men just pulled up in a white minibus and started shooting randomly at patrons. It is the second mass shooting at a tavern in just 3 weeks in South Africa. President Trump is making a big move for Greenland, my friends, like I said at the beginning, and Denmark is furious. Trump has officially named Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as the new special envoy to Greenland. The goal is clear. Trump has said for years that the US should buy or control the island for national security. Landry accepted the job, saying he wants to make Greenland a part of America, a part of the US. But the Danish foreign minister is livid. He's angry. He called the move totally unacceptable and is summoning the US ambassador to complain, reminding Washington that Greenland is not for sale. We just got confirmation that US Special Ops Forces have seized a 3rd oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. The ship is called the Skipper. Attorney General Pam Bondi just posted a video, and it looks like an action movie. You can see US forces just fast roping from helicopters right onto the deck and take control of the ship while it is still at sea. The government says the vessel was smuggling sanctioned oil from Venezuela to Iran. So, while the diplomats are talking, American troops are actively boarding ships and seizing cargo. The message to those places like Tehran is loud and clear. The Caribbean is closed for your business. China is not too happy about this either and officially condemned these seizures. And finally, a political earthquake in New York. Congresswoman Elisa Stefanik has officially tapped out. She announced she is suspending her campaign for governor of New York. But the bigger shock is that she is leaving Congress altogether. She will not run for re-election to her seat. She says she wants to focus on her family and her son. This leaves her seat in upstate New York wide open. Right now, there is no clear successor, but with Stefanik out, the race to replace her is going to be a free-for-all. But we do know, and we have already reported here on Edge, that Bruce Blakeman, the Nassau County executive, will be running for governor against sitting Governor Hakol. He's a Jewish boy, so let's see. The President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, will be joined by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War and the Secretary of the Navy, to make an announcement in a few minutes. We will let you know the details of the announcement tomorrow. The White House isn't saying what it's about, but just look at the timing. Trump just signed a massive $900 billion defense bill, and tensions with Venezuela are boiling over. When you bring the Navy boss to Florida right now, you aren't just talking about the weather. Okay, drama went down at TPUSA, Turning Point USA, America Fest. The first one since Charlie Kirk was assassinated in September. Ben Shapiro took the stage and didn't just give a speech. He declared war against those like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, calling them by name. He called them grifters and charlatans. The main point was brutal. He called Tucker Carlson a moral imbecile for platforming the white nationalist Nick Fuentes. And he blasted Candace Owens for spreading the conspiracy theory that Israel or the Jews or TPS USA alone were behind Charlie Kirk's own murder. Shapiro said bluntly, "These people are frauds and they do not deserve your time. They actually hurt you by spewing information without any basis, without any facts. You can't just say conspiracy theories without facts. What they do is that they start saying something, you start questioning, and all they actually apologize. They say, look, I just asked a question, but asking a question with no facts, you basically start boiling the pot, and you cause chaos, and what we see today, and what maybe led to Charlie Kirk's murder. Tucker Carlson's answer came just an hour later. He walked onto the same stage and basically shrugged the whole thing off. He told the crowd that the idea of a Republican civil war was totally fake. He refused to apologize for the Fuentes interview. Instead, he claimed he isn't an anti-Semite because anti-Semitism is immoral. And he dismissed Shapiro's attacks as just noise. But the most emotional moment of the night came when Charlie's widow officially stepped up as the new CEO of Turning Point USA. She stood on the stage and vowed to continue her husband's work. She told the crowd that she is going to push the organization forward and build the youth movement exactly how Charlie wanted it. So, while the pundits were fighting, she was the one leading. 2 NATO intelligence agencies have confirmed that Russia is building a new anti-satellite weapon designed to wipe out Elon Musk's Starlink network. This isn't your standard missile that hits one satellite, it is called zone effect weapon. A zone effect weapon means basically it explodes and creates a massive cloud of shrapnel and debris that acts like a shotgun blast in orbit, in space. The goal is to take out entire clusters of satellites at once. Why? Because Starlink has given Ukraine a massive advantage on the battlefield, and Russia wants to blind them. But here is the scary part. Once you create that much debris in space, you can't control it. It could take out everyone's satellites, including Russia's own. So I don't know how effective that is. We are seeing open Nissim in Eretz Yisrael. A massive sand cliff collapsed right onto a busy beach near Netanya, and somehow nobody was hurt, Baruch Hashem. It happened at Blue Bay Beach, right on the border with Emek Hefer. Huge boulders and tons of sand came crashing down, completely blocking parts of the shore of the beach, while people were walking nearby in the Tayelet. But in a true Ness, Zois Chanukah Ness, nobody was touched. Officials say the intense winter storms lately weakened the sand until it finally just gave way. Today is the day we remember a modern-day miracle, a Ness that shook the entire world. On this day, Zois Chanukah, Klal Yisrael, got the news we had been davening for. President Donald J. Trump signed the paper, and Shulem Lemmer the Bashkin. Shlita walked free. It wasn't supposed to just happen. The lawyers said it was impossible. The system said he was never getting out. He was facing a 27-year sentence. But on this very last day of Chanukah, Zois Chanukah, Hashem closed the door with him inside, and the impossible simply collapsed. President Trump commuted the sentence, and within hours, Rabashkin was in a car heading home. The streets of Borough Park, Monsey, and Crown Heights didn't just celebrate, they exploded in Simcha. Chazdei Hashem Kidosamni. People were dancing on top of cars, crying in the streets, and realizing that Yeshias Hashem keheref ayin. In the blink of an eye, it wasn't politics, it was Zois Chanukah. For 8 long years, he didn't just sit in a cell. He taught the world a new Aleph Beis. He called it Aleph Beis Gimel. Aleph for Minna, believing in Hashem, that Hashem runs the world. Beis is for Betuchen, trusting that he is doing it for the good, and he promised us that if you have the Aleph and the base, you will eventually get the Gimel, which is Geula, redemption. Zois Chanukah, the world watched Gimel happen in real time. That year, he didn't just walk out because of a lawyer. He walked out because he never let go of the Aleph and the base. A quick word from our sponsors today before we finalize today's segment with a story about the largest menorah lighting in Monsey last night. Zois Chanukah. The Trepper Plan. Reb David Wanunu is here to help your business grow. If you want your business to grow, call him on 845-414-8100. Call David. 845-414-8100. Now listen to this. If you mention On Edge, you get a good deal. Shawarma Delight. If you're hungry, stop in today. Shawarma Delight. Get yourself a delighted shawarma. On Edge. If you mention On Edge, you get a free drink. It's next to Bingo, 26 Spring Valley Marketplace. Free delivery on his website, on sdny.store. Within Monsey, obviously. YS Capital Group. If you want to borrow some money for an investment, the answer is yes. Call 718-831-2168. 718-831-2168. YS Capital Group. They get you loans without any closing costs. No fees attached. Call them. Find out. Arrive Express. If you want to get places. Arrive Express. Arrive Express. 845-622-1111 or Monroe 845-254-1111. That's Arrive Express. And On Edge News is always here for you every single morning. Like I said, and I mentioned before, those of you who want to give me some feedback, always welcome, by the way, and let me know what times you prefer. If it's 9 a.m., 12 p.m., or it's the middle of the day, you want two shows, what times would you prefer? Call me at 845-671-1775. Press 5 to leave that brief and short message, please, okay? Short message. Now, for those of you who want to sponsor us and support this program, you can call us. The Yiddish program has been growing and growing. Baruch Hashem, up to today, 50,000 people, Baruch Hashem. Every single day. The English one is growing, starting and growing, Baruch Hashem. So with your help, please spread the message to all of your friends and family about On Edge News. For those of you who are curious and want to hear the news in a clean, kosher way, On Edge News is for you. OnEdgeNews.com, you can check out information provided you by the click on the lakeodluach.com, who gives you the updates every single day when it comes out on YouTube. 844, you can subscribe to my channel and you'll get the updates instantly. 845-671-1775. Call me or email me onedgenews@gmail.com for sponsorship. And yeah, don't leave the message with sponsorship with that message, because that is just for, like I said before, I don't want it to get lost in a pool of messages. Okay, with that, my friends, have yourselves a wonderful day and a wonderful Zois Chanukah for the few minutes that we have left. Okay, all the best. Poilus alles gits. Yes, we can wish this on Zois Chanukah.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.